Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
A Glassy Way to Go. Retired Detective Kendra O'Connor loved glass. There was just something amazing about it. She didn't know if it was how shiny and elegant it looked, or the cheapest, or how normal everyday glass could transform a simple object into something priceless. But this case challenged that. As Kendra walked along and looked down at the River Thames in the heart of London, Kendra watched all the sailing boats, large boats and even a cargo ship gently past her as everyone went on their own merry way. Kendra loved walking here by the river. Sure, the River Thames was nothing to be too proud of because of its constant traffic, loud noises and pollution, but it was still a river at heart. A wonderful large river that represented nature in such a diverse and chaotic city. Kendra liked the smells of the burning boat fuel, fresh piney scents, and her personal favorite, the sharp bitter coffee that she grabbed in her hand as she continued to walk along the river. And today was definitely one of the best days London had had for a while, with the perfect blue skies, bright sunshine, and it was even warm. That was saying something. She was looking forward to meeting up with her two best friends, retired Detective Jeff Long and retired Officer Patricia Nelson, as they were all part of the same cold case task force that solved London's hardest, weirdest, and strangest cold cases. This case from Kendra's past might have been their weirdest yet. As much as Kendra hated cold cases with a passion, because they were like personal badges of failure against her, and it meant that she failed the family, friends, and even the victim. There was one cold case she couldn't forget, and she had tried hard. 5 years ago, Kendra had been called to the British Museum to investigate a random massive cube of glass that had appeared overnight in one of their exhibitions. That wasn't the problem. The problem was, inside the massive cube was a perfectly preserved human. A naked young man. Even now, Kendra hated the killer who did this. How dare they not only take the life of the young man, but also show him off in such an awful and glassy way. It was completely uncalled for. Kendra raised her coffee cup as she saw Jeff Long in his normal black suit, trousers and shoes that made Kendra guess he was heading or coming back from a work meeting with the police commissioner. Then 70-something Patricia Nelson wasn't too far behind him, wearing a rather wonderful pearl necklace, red spring dress and black shoes. Kendra didn't know why she was looking so great, but she was almost jealous. "Hi, hon," Patricia said, giving Kendra a quick hug. "Beautiful day for a walk," Jeff said, pointing to the sunshine. Kendra smiled. It really was great seeing them again. "That case you sent us was strange," Jeff said. Kendra could only nod at that. She hated thinking about the case, so this was going to be challenging to say the least. Jeff took out a copy of Kendra's original police file, and he started to read through it again. "What were your theories at the time?" Jeff asked. Kendra shrugged. "I'll tell you about the case generally. Arrived at the British Museum. They have great mummies, hun, don't they?" Patricia said before realizing she had interrupted Kendra. "Sorry." Inspected the glass cube. There were 2 sets of tracks coming from the moving bay where the cube was transported in from. "Did you see any trucks?" Jeff asked. "No," Kendra said. "But it took 3 days before the techs managed to remove the glass from the body. That seriously killed the investigation, because I was out of personal leads after day 1. Then the Met had you on other cases before the body was done," Jeff said. Kendra nodded. She had really hated that, and that was probably why this case hurt so much. It wasn't because she couldn't investigate the crime properly, But she hated herself for not fighting to remain on the case, instead of being buried with new cases. She should have dedicated more time to this one. Yep, by the time the autopsy was done, I was working another 2 murder cases. And they kept coming. I called the case cold after a month. Patricia gently rubbed Kendra's shoulder, and Kendra saw something in Patricia's eyes. A look that showed Kendra wasn't alone in feeling like this. It might have been different for Patricia as an officer, but Kendra knew there was things she would have loved to investigate further as an officer. But of course she wasn't allowed to, mostly because she was just an inexperienced and so-called useless officer, but a woman too. Thanks, Kendra said. But I did look up the ID of the victim. Who was it? That wasn't in the file? Jeff asked. It wasn't. I never officially added the ID to my file because it was a strange ID. The victim was a kidnap victim from 20 years before. What? Patricia and Jeff asked. Exactly. How could a 20-year-old kidnap victim be so perfectly preserved in glass? Surely there would be some signs of rot. And how could the glass be perfectly preserved for 20 years before being moved to the British Museum? Patricia hopped over a small puddle as the 3 of them kept walking along the River Thames. Kendra was impressed the over 70 could still do that. She wasn't sure she could. Wait, we have a kidnap victim, a glass cube and a mysterious killer, Jeff said. Or kidnapper, hun. Did you ever find out how the cube and body thing was done? Jeff asked Kendra. I looked into it in my own time, Kendra said. It's simple to do, if you know what you're doing. You literally pour the molten glass into a mold halfway. Drop the body inside, then carefully fill the mold up so the body stays in the middle. That's easy to you? Jeff asked, smiling. Kendra shrugged. Patricia took out her really modern smartphone and started swiping away at it. Even after working with Patricia for so long, it still amazed Kendra how tech-savvy she was compared to herself. It was only the other night Kendra had learnt about online banking, because Patricia had showed it to her family's amazement. The original kidnap report said the victim was Daniel Logan. 24 years old, lived in Canterbury, Kent, and went to university where he lived, Patricia said. Kendra nodded. That made sense. Canterbury was a beautiful city around an hour away from London, and they did have some amazing universities, but it was strange how he was kidnapped, murdered, then placed in a glass cube. Where was he kidnapped? Kendra asked. In Canterbury, hun. Kent police said they found the kidnapper. His ex-girlfriend who tortured him mentally, physically, and even burnt him with her cigarettes. Kendra shook her head and focused on one of the boats sailing past on the river. It was awful whenever someone hurt another person, but to think an ex could hurt someone they loved was even worse. Did they charge her? Jeff asked. Yes, hun. A jury convicted her and she was sentenced. She's out now. Kendra stopped and crossed her arms. Patricia and Jeff looked at her, smiling. You're thinking of something, Jeff said. Well, if the kidnapper is out, let's send her back for the murder, Kendra said. But hun, what if she didn't do it? Kendra pointed Patricia back to her phone. I don't see how it could be anyone else. You might be right, hun. The ex said she was working alone, and even insisted she had done away with him. And they only wouldn't charge her with murder or related charges because they never found a body, Jeff said, half as a question. Exactly, hun. Kendra watched a large red sailing boat glide down the river as she wondered about the ex. Sure, she had had some awful boyfriends before she met her husband, but she would never hurt them. And this murder, it was done so twisted and carefully that finding proof was going to be hard. If the ex-girlfriend did do it, how do we prove it? Kendra asked. Patricia swiped her phone a few more times. Says here, she was working at a food shop when the victim walked past and she grabbed him. Taking him into the shop, waiting until her shift was over, then taking him elsewhere. Kendra was shocked that someone would actually wait for the end of their shift after kidnapping someone. She didn't know if that was ballsy or stupid. What about a glass connection? And how did the police find the ex was the kidnapper? Kendra asked. Report says the Vic attacked, grabbed the ex's phone and called the police, Patricia said. Kendra just looked at Jeff. She might have mainly worked on murders during her decades as a cop, but even she had worked a few kidnapping cases, and kidnappers rarely allowed themselves to be attacked and their phone to be grabbed. What was the Vic's degree in? Kendra asked. Patricia spent a few good seconds searching for it. Kendra wondered if she was about to give up, when Patricia almost dropped her phone and stared at Kendra. What? Kendra asked, smiling. Art, hun. He was doing a degree in art. Sculpture, to be precise. Kendra nodded, and Jeff and Patricia made the same connection, judging by their own smiles. It was too strange a coincidence for the victim to be doing an art degree, and for his body to be discovered in a museum, and in the way it was found. There had to be a connection. Did the ex ever say why she did what she did? Jeff asked. No. Except for she needed to do it because it was right and he deserved it, Patricia said. Kendra went over to Patricia. Check the autopsy for me, please. I think there was something as an off comment by the medical examiner. Something about damaged bones. Here, Patricia said. There's a single line in the entire report about bone weakness. Kendra clicked her fingers, and everything was starting to make sense. But it still bothered Kendra, how there wasn't any way to prove her theory. What if this was suicide? Kendra asked. Patricia and Jeff just stared at her. What if the Vic had bone cancer? It would explain the bone weakness, and why the ex said he deserved it. All cancers are awful disease, and being murdered does have more dignity. Kendra knew that might have sounded harsh to some people, but after watching her beautiful mother and father deteriorate and turn into shadows of their former selves to their cancers, she knew it was a strange kindness. But killing your ex-boyfriend to save him? Come on, it's a bit far, Jeff said. I agree, hun. Kendra was about to nod when she had another idea. Where's the kidnapper now? You said she was out, and that's all the report would show. Where is she? Patricia looked on her phone. Oh. Kendra nodded, and that was the exact same reaction she was expecting. The kidnapper was dead, which meant this was probably some kind of twisted pact where the girlfriend would agree to kill the boyfriend as a mercy, in exchange for having a few years in prison before she died. I think we need to head back home and make some phone calls, Kendra said. When the other two simply nodded, all three of them started to walk back to their cars, and were ready to close this case a bit more. Kendra had to get justice and closure for the friends, families, and the victim of the case. A few hours later, as Kendra was lying on her wonderfully soft and supportive sofa with her head against her husband's stomach, she couldn't help but smile as the three of them had solved the cold case. It hadn't taken that long after getting back to Jeff's place and making some calls to confirm Kendra's theory. And it felt amazing. It turned out that the ex-girlfriend did have a terminal illness that meant she would definitely die before she was 40, and sadly, ever since her diagnosis, she hadn't seen the point in life. Her parents said she was risky, and just wanted to throw her life away completely. Until she met the victim. Then when he broke up with her, she was a wreck, so it didn't surprise them to learn she had kidnapped him. But the more surprising thing to Kendra was how the kidnapper had written a letter to be opened when the body was discovered, but the letter was never sent, and the parents only found it a few days ago. So they sent Kendra a copy, without reading it apparently, and it confirmed everything. It was an extremely strange, twisted love letter, with the kidnapper constantly saying how much she loved the victim and only wanted him to be happy. And it turned out being killed and made into a sculpture would make him happy. It was so strange to Kendra how these two people loved each other, and did such awful things to each other as well. But that was love in this case. Then the letter went on to talk about how the victim begged the kidnapper to kill him in that glassy way, as she kept him restrained and hidden from the rest of the body. The phone call was an accident, but by then the plan was made, set, and both were committed to it. As Kendra looked up into the amazing soft brown eyes of her husband, she knew she would never kill him even if he had a terminal illness, and she would never want him to go out in a glassy way. A normal funeral was perfect. But there was one thing she would always do. She would always love him no matter what.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.